Now, wealth. What's the problem here? Do Marxists like wealth? Do Marxists like wealth? By the way, in the academy and the colleges across this country are many of the people that are teachers and professors in the university. Are they Marxist oriented? The answer is yes. Now, the Marxist comes to the book of 1 Kings and they see Solomon being blessed by God with all this wealth. Do Marxist people like people with wealth? No, they hate them. And so basically, the Marxist, when he gets in here, has to totally turn this passage on its head. It's been really interesting to me. Here's how the Marxists, and this is many of the scholars that I work with, here's how they interpret it. I look at it and I say, God bless Solomon with wealth. They say wealth is bad. Therefore, the narrative needs to be read in an ironic way. Now, how do you read this to Proverbs narrative in an ironic way? This is how you read it. Oh yeah, Solomon, he was the smartest man in the world. Oh yeah, Solomon was the most wealthy person in his time. He had all this gold and silver, yeah. You know where he got his gold and silver? He taxed the daylights out of the people. By the way, later on we find out that Solomon did tax his people. By the way, where do kings get money? Where do kings get money? I'm not talking about kings. Let me talk about where do people in power get money? They've always gotten it from the same place. They tax the people. Solomon taxed the people and stuff. And so the Marxists would say Solomon's wealthy, not because God gave him wealth, but because he taxed the people. So Solomon's wealth shows the cruelty why he dominated the 99% because he was the 1%. Okay, do you get all the overtones of that? I hope you do. Okay? So this is what does this do to the narrative? Do you see what it does? Rather than wisdom and wealth being a blessing of God, the Marxist reads it so that wisdom and wealth are what? They're not a blessing of God, but they're Solomon taking wealth from other people. And Solomon, oh yeah, he's really wise and things like that. It's all a mock-out. So this narrative is not meant to build Solomon up. This narrative is meant to take Solomon down. Now, by the way, is that quite a different reading than the way you read it? Yeah. What I'm suggesting to you is this probably a wrong way to take it, but this is the way a lot of people are looking at the Solomon narrative now. They've taken it and put it on its head. I think it's wrong because the Bible's saying this Solomon is gifted by God and the wealth is a gift of God. Now, there would be problems with the wealth later on, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful to say all wealth is bad. Long life, okay? Again, one of the blessings of God, Solomon will rule for 40 years and God gives him wealth, long life and stuff. Now, when a new leader takes over, what's the first thing a new leader's got to do? He's got to win a victory, right? David, first victory, David becomes king. 1 Samuel 16, chapter 17, David's first victory, David and Goliath. Saul becomes first king of Israel. What's the first thing Saul does? Defeats the Philistines. Solomon takes over. Where's his battle? Do you remember reading about Solomon at war and battle? No. Solomon, rather than being a victory of war, Solomon's victory is a wisdom victory. And this is why why is this story about the two prostitutes? Let me just narrate the story. You remember the two women. There's two prostitutes. They both got infants. The one rolls over on her child at night and basically smothers or kills the kid. So then what does she do in the night? She's killed her own child. She takes her child, the dead one, and puts it at the breast of the other woman, and then she takes the good child. Okay? The woman wakes up in the morning, realizes, by the way, do women recognize their children even from like day one? You know, so everybody in there, all babies look alike, right? All babies look alike. Is that true? If you ever saw my kids, you know, they all don't look alike. They're all weird. And anyway, all babies don't look alike. And so she would know this is not her baby. So now what happens? You got to see she said versus she said, right? It's my baby. No, it's my baby. No, it's my baby. You got two women fighting like that. What are you supposed to do? You know, I mean, you got two women fighting and stuff. So you say, what's the king do? Well, the king says, man, Solomon, he says, give me a sword. Give me a sword. I'll just chop the baby in two and give half to each thing. What's Solomon playing on? A mother will have what for her children? A mother will have what for her children? In our house, can my children do anything wrong? If anybody attacks my children, is my wife always on the side of our kids. Even when my kids do bad stuff, she's always on the side of the kids, okay? She has compassion, okay? Compassion is like huge. And so to basically cut the child in two, the real mother says, no, don't give the baby to the other mother. Let the baby live. And then Solomon knows what? Now he knows which one's the mother. And he says, take the baby from her and give it to that. It's a victory of wisdom to discern what's right and what's wrong. Solomon gains wisdom. And so his first victory is this victory of wisdom with these two ladies. Now, Solomon is the Proverbs man. David is the psalmist. David is the sweet psalmist of Israel. David gives us like half of the book of Psalms. Proverbs is written largely by Solomon. Proverbs, or 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 30, it says this. He spoke 3,000 proverbs. 3,000 proverbs. How many proverbs do we have in our Bible? About 375. Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs. We've got 375. Are most of the proverbs of Solomon gone? Yeah, we only got probably just 12% of what he wrote. 3,000 proverbs, and his songs number 1,005. How many? They had one song of Solomon, they put it in the Bible, and they said, that's enough, man. Anyways, but the honest truth is, does Solomon have 2 psalms in the book of Psalms? 2 of Solomon's songs make it into the book of Psalms. Song of Solomon, is dedicated to him, but it's actually, to be honest with you, it's Song of Songs, not Song of Solomon's. But anyways, songs number 1,005, he described plant life from the cedar of Lebanon to the hyssop that grows in the walls. He also taught about animals and birds and reptiles and fish. And men from all nations came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. Again, now what I'm going to tell you now, I'm really into Proverbs, I'm really into Solomon. What I'm going to tell you now, to be honest with you, you're at Gordon College, there's nowhere else in the world that's going to say this, but I'm going to say this, so this is unique. What I'm going to tell you is totally unique. You'll never hear it in any commentary or anything. This is totally unique. Now, as soon as I say that, what should you put behind what I'm going to say next? A big question mark, okay? Hildebrandt's making this up. Now, I've studied this stuff for a long time, but I'm going to make something up. It's tentative, okay? What I'm saying is I could be wrong here. I could be wrong. I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. Something bothers me in this narrative. As I read this narrative, who pops up? Who keeps popping up in the narrative? This woman, Pharaoh's daughter. Before Solomon had his dream in chapter 3, this is before he has the dream at Gibeon to get the wisdom. It says Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married his daughter. That verse is totally out of context. It's totally out of context. All of a sudden, boom, you got Pharaoh's daughter. You say, where'd that come from? He's going in a dream to get wisdom and stuff. Where'd this verse come from there about Pharaoh's daughter? If you go over to chapter 9, verse 24, you see the same thing, kind of this thrown-in verse about this wife that he's got from Egypt. After Pharaoh's daughter had come up from the city of David to the palace, Solomon had built for her. Solomon built this woman a special palace, because he didn't want her in the temple area because she wasn't Jewish and she was an Egyptian. So Solomon built a special palace for her to kind of keep things kosher and stuff. So she, again, and then in chapter 11, verse 1, when it's listing all of Solomon's wives, here's what it says. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter. Notice how Pharaoh's daughter is privileged here. All the other ones not married. Pharaoh's daughter, special in chapter 11, verse 1, with the 700 wives and the 300 concubines. By the way, 700 wives and 300 concubines. Question, can any human being do that? Man. No. Those are political marriages. A lot of those are political marriages and stuff like that. Don't think of it as, anyways, okay, let's get out of there. But anyways, now, what I'm suggesting to you is this. In Proverbs, how is wisdom portrayed in the book of Proverbs? Proverbs chapter 1 to 9. How is wisdom portrayed? Wisdom was portrayed as a woman. It's woman wisdom versus woman folly. Woman folly does what? Does woman folly try to seduce the young man? And Solomon's trying to get his son to date Madam Wisdom. And Madam Wisdom is a woman. Wisdom is portrayed as a woman. Do you notice also in the book of Proverbs, there is no mention of the temple? Now, by the way, is a temple one of Solomon's biggest achievements? Like in his whole life, Solomon built the first temple to God, overlaid it with gold and cedar and all this kind of stuff. Solomon built the temple. It's not even mentioned in the book of Proverbs. Who would have a little bit of resentment against the temple? Would Pharaoh's daughter have a little resentment to that? She's not good enough for the temple, right? So Solomon builds her this separate palace away from it, things like that. Now, here's another thing. When you go to Proverbs chapter 22, Proverbs chapter 22 is very, very similar to the Proverbs of Amenopi from Egypt. Proverbs chapter 22 is very similar to the Proverbs of Amenopi. What I'm suggesting here is it possible that Solomon is interacting with this wife he has, who's Pharaoh's daughter? Is it very likely she knows the wisdom of Egypt? And is it very likely that Solomon is collecting proverbs from around the world, and he goes to his wife from Egypt, and he says, hey, what kind of proverbs do you got down there? And she tells him, by the way, would she have been trained in the wisdom of Egypt? Yes, she would have been. She would have been trained in the wisdom of Egypt. And Solomon then, says, hey, tell me some of the proverbs you got down there. And she tells him. So what I'm suggesting is it very possible then that the book of Proverbs has an influence from this Pharaoh's daughter and through Solomon. And what I'm suggesting is that I think there's pretty strong influence there. Okay? Now, there's the Proverbs of Solomon. Solomon was the editor of it, and he put the thing together. But my guess is that he interacted very strongly with this woman, this Pharaoh's daughter, and she is highlighted in the narrative. Okay? By the way, how does the book of Proverbs end? Proverbs 31, how does it end? It ends with a what? A VW, right? It ends with a VW, the virtuous woman, right? The VW, the virtuous woman. Is it possible the virtuous woman was modeled on this woman, Pharaoh's daughter? That's a stretch. Put a big question mark by that one, okay? But it's, anyway. So just some other ideas there.